is not to be liked, and it's not to get applause in foreign capitals. The purpose of having a commander-in-chief and pursuing a national security strategy is to defend America's interests aggressively, effectively, and unapologetically. If our president doesn't do this, who will? One man who did was Ronald Reagan, and the contrast is instructive. 22 years ago, President Reagan went to Berlin, and he challenged our adversary, the Soviet Union, to take a step that would demonstrate that they were serious about peace. He challenged them to do more than just talk. Standing in front of the Berlin Wall that separated the free world from the communist bloc, President Reagan said, "General Secretary Gorbachev, if you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate, Mr. Gorbachev. Open this gate, Mr. Gorbachev. Tear down this wall." Today, faced with an adversary in Tehran, President Obama has challenged them to do nothing. He's asked nothing of them, saying instead, quote, "We are ready for direct negotiations with the Iranians on a whole range of issues, without preconditions, in an atmosphere of mutual respect." Shortly after President Obama made this statement, the Iranian regime began a brutal crackdown against its own citizens. Now, when you tell your enemy, as our president did, "We're extending our hand and you should unclench your fist," and your enemy responds by using force against its own people, it's probably time to change your policy. Iran will not be disarmed because we talk them out of their weapons or because we offer apologies for America. Iran will be disarmed diplomatically only if they know that they will face military force, the potential of military action by the United States if they do not disarm diplomatically. Today, clearly they believe the opposite. The United States seems to have taken the military option off the table. And last week, President Obama dispatched his Secretary of Defense and other top national security officials to Tel Aviv to tell the Israelis to do the same. This approach serves only to weaken America's critically important relationship with Israel, while simultaneously strengthening Iran's resolve to acquire nuclear weapons. The challenges of Iran and the Middle East are only a few that President Obama and the nation will face in the coming years. And when the president does the right thing, he deserves our support. He has, for example, put a tremendously talented general in command in Afghanistan. General McChrystal, according to recent press reports, is now in the process of preparing a new strategy to win that war. And it may well be that additional American troops are required. President Obama's response, if such a request comes, will be an important indicator of his commitment to victory in Afghanistan. When President Obama gets it wrong, and when he attempts to rewrite history, we have an obligation to stand up and say so. As all of you in this room know, saying so and being heard may seem to pose a challenge, as so much of the mainstream media seems to operate completely free of objectivity. But you have all proven that you're up to that challenge. And the good news is that the mainstream media occupies a smaller and smaller portion of the space and of the information that the American public consumes. So we've got increasing opportunities to get our opinions out there into the public discourse. So I want to leave you today with this admonition. Please, please, please continue to write, to analyze, to speak, to think, and to challenge the conventional wisdom. When you see something that bothers you or something that inspires you, please post about it on Redstate. Send an op-ed to your local newspapers. Fight for what you believe in. Make yourselves heard. Challenge your opponents with facts and evidence, truth and clarity. You will find more often than not that you will prevail. One thing is sure, we will not win if we don't fight. You can clap for that. We all have an obligation right now to take a stand in the cause of our nation. And at the end of the day, I really am optimistic about America and about how these policy debates will turn out. A meeting like this one we're having today is a place where all of us can find hope and inspiration and optimism. And also find our voices to continue to speak out. America is fundamentally a conservative nation. We know that our greatness has been founded on values like a strong national defense, limited government, low taxes, the genius and ingenuity of the private sector, and a strong belief in individual freedoms. We know government is more often the problem than the solution. We know that freedom is not free,